Have you ever seen a trailer that had shots that not only are nowhere to be found in the movie, but also don't even remotely make sense considering the plot of said film? Well, turns out, Star Wars Revenge of the Sith falls victim to such a phenomenon as well, and from Knightfall Vader on a Separatist cruiser to Ki-Adi-Mundi dying on Coruscant, today I will be looking at 6 distinct differences from the trailer and explaining their roles, whether that be to deceive the audience or to actually be originally part of this episode. And I also hope to explain why this trailer reveals so much about the movie to the point where it's basically just a recap of the whole plot. More on that later. And apologies if my voice quality isn't quite there in this video, as I got my wisdom teeth removed earlier today. But our first major unused element from the trailer was this shot where Palpatine approaches Coruscant, which occurs right at the beginning of the trailer and clearly shows Palpatine in his Theta-class shuttle escorted by V-Wings to take the injured Darth Vader to the medical station on Coruscant. However, this wasn't in the final movie, which funny enough relates to my childhood because I always remember watching this part of the movie as a kid and not knowing where Darth Vader's transformation took place. Not that it was that important, but it definitely took me a few years before I realized it was on Coruscant. But it is most likely that George simply cut this from the scene as it was unnecessary and just going to be another ship approaching or leaving planet shot, which is a little redundant considering we have like 6 of those in the movie already. Also at the beginning is what might just be the cheesiest thing I've ever heard in a movie trailer, which is this knife sound effect.
Is it possible to learn this power? Not from a Jedi.
I mean, I guess this was standard in trailers back then, but like, wow. At 2, Palpatine windows. While a minor change that only someone as over-obsessed with this movie as I am would notice, I thought it was worth noting that the view of Coruscant put in Palpatine's windows, and even some of the lighting in his office in the trailer, has a strange greenish-yellow coloration that was thankfully fixed in the final film to look less ugly. At 3 is Ki-Adi-Mundi death. So we all remember good old Master Forehead over here that died on Magito at the beginning of the Order 66 montage. And Magito has a very distinct snowy, otherworldly terrain, but in the Revenge of the Sith trailer, the shot that should be Mundi turning around to face his Marines on Magito has been changed to him turning around at the Jedi Temple at night. I believe we can see the Jedi docking bay back here for every starfighter the Jedi have, and it is actually possible that Mundi was meant to die on Coruscant in the final movie and was simply leading on a charge against the other attacking clones with a squad he thought to be loyal to him. This, or they didn't want us to know the clones attacked Jedi galaxy-wide. I suppose in a sense this hides Order 66 because it makes it seem more like maybe Palpatine or Vader ordered a legion loyal to them specifically, which fights against the rest of the Republic.
Civil war without end.
And I think this was what many people thought of Vader's origins, a military leader that slowly gains more and more power and becomes more and more corrupt until he is working for the Emperor without question. Perhaps George put this in here to subvert the expectations of those fans. At 4 is my favorite, Anakin on the Separatist ship. To me, this is the most glaring, different aspect of the trailer, because at no point when Anakin has his hood up and is clearly in Knightfall Vader mode, by the looks of the eyeshadow, at least that's what I think it is. And fun fact about the Revenge of the Sith novelization, part of the reason Anakin listens to Palpatine and kills the younglings is because he is literally having a mental breakdown at this point, partially because he has terrible sleep deprivation from all the stress, confusion, and nightmares clouding his days and nights. And as someone who doesn't sleep much myself from all the YouTube work I've been doing, I definitely could see this twisting someone's judgment or clarity. Thankfully, I haven't hallucinated yet, so that must be a good sign that it's completely healthy.
Much to learn, you still have.
But here when he is in Knightfall Vader mode, I think this is actually from the deleted scene of him killing Shakti, and they just stitched it in here. but perhaps the marketing department just took an unfinished blue screen shot they were given and added it to a hallway on the invisible hand. Although that theory seems less likely considering how close it looks to the one in the Jedi Temple from the deleted scene. At 5, Padmé Crying. So this shot looks so weird and unfamiliar because it is simply the shot of Padmé crying during Order 66 in the final movie, but in an unfinished state where it looks very blatantly green screened, and the positioning of the background is different as well. Speaking of unfinished shots, in the teaser trailer we get 2 unfinished shots, one of which being Anakin flying through the Battle of Coruscant, which I actually think is new, and also the iconic Anakin versus Obi-Wan eruption shot that has much less lava. For our last change, before we look at why the trailer reveals so much of the plot, we have number 6, Darth Vader's hands. When filming the original scene of Darth Vader's rebirth, Vader's hands were fastened next to his head. This ended up looking very awkward, and so it was changed in the final movie through the use of digital effects from Lucas to be by his side. But this also means that when Vader lifts his arms to scream out in pain, they start to slide up and then morph down for his new position. And I definitely prefer the final version. Dude, my voice sucks right now. But I definitely prefer the final version, as this one is absolutely awful. But why does the Revenge of the Sith trailer reveal so much about the final movie? And how does it compare to the other classic Star Wars movie trailers? And are there any insights the making of Revenge of the Sith book can reveal to us? Well, all of those questions will be answered after going over the Christian advice of this video. And dog, I low-key feel like I'm on some through-the-wire Kanye stuff right now. Good thing he's not a Nazi or anything. But today we're looking at Matthew 7:21, which says, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven." And the meaning I took from this is that if you go into sinning willingly, knowing that afterwards you're going to repent. Oh, I'll do this, but afterwards I'll repent. And, it's all good because I believe in God and I know this is wrong. That is not enough to guarantee you the kingdom of heaven, afterlife and on earth as well. And that is a terrible thing that must not be allowed. And that's kind of what I took from this, but surely there are other interpretations as well, which I'd be interested to hear about in the comments from some of you more experienced Christians as well. But I did think that this was a very important and meaningful message here. And getting back to the video, just a quick reminder that if you have any video suggestions or things you want me to cover in this sort of analysis style, or lore for that matter, then leave it down in the comments below and let's get back to the video. To answer our first question as to why this trailer spoils the whole movie, it turns out George Lucas really didn't care that much at all about spoiling the entire ending before release, because LEGO Star Wars the video game released in March, 2 months before the film came out, effectively spoiling the defeat of Anakin by Obi-Wan on Mustafar and the birth of the twins from Padmé and Paulus Mawson. And yes, I know, obviously the idea of Obi-Wan killing Anakin on Mustafar was a concept that existed for decades in the EU and from George Lucas, but still, the exact way it happens is definitely new here. Also, the actual Revenge of the Sith game itself released a couple weeks before the movie, which obviously would give a first-person retelling of the entire plot. In his mind, that being Lucas, Vader's defeat was inevitable. When comparing Episode 3's trailer to the other classic Star Wars trailers, we see that The Phantom Menace was actually left fairly ambiguous, but Attack of the Clones shares a similar problem of revealing just about everything in the movie, from Boba Fett's father being the source of the clone army to the entire final battle of Geonosis. And there aren't really any new shots in that trailer. But now let's look to the making of Revenge of the Sith book to see if there are any insights we can acquire here. And after combing through the final stages of post-production, I discovered that even as late as October 2004, they were still using these early shots of Vader's original operation scene. But I couldn't find anything on why the trailer used those alternate shots for Anakin walking and Ki-Adi-Mundi on Coruscant. But in conclusion, I would say that we have discovered that movie trailers often don't reflect the final film perfectly. Also, the art of trailers have evolved over time to what I'd argue is a better place, because in my opinion, trailers should reveal the feel and intrigue of their film, but not necessarily, you know, the entire plot. And let me know if I should cover the unused shots from the Rogue One trailer next, because trust me, there are a lot of them. Oh, who am I kidding? You already know, you're a Star Wars fan if you made it this far, so yeah, you probably are pretty familiar with at least a few of those. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, then you might also like this one, where I looked at how aging in Star Wars makes no sense. But yeah, see ya.